Okay, so from the simple linear regression, we now move on to the multiple linear regression. So as the name itself indicates, now a group of variables are trying to explain variation in y. Earlier it was only a single variable, now we have a group of variables. So the population regression function is slightly different from that of earlier. We again have the intercept parameter and we have multiple slope parameters. Earlier we had only one slope parameter, now we have multiple slope parameters. The reason being that y earlier was being explained by just one variable xi, but now it is now being explained by more than one variable. So what, in a nutshell, we are trying to increase the explanatory power of the variable. And we understand that every phenomenon is not affected by a single variable alone. It is affected by a group of variables, many variables at the same time. So in order to accommodate those many variables, we are now looking at a multiple regression model. So there are multiple slopes and there is of course an intercept. The assumptions remain exactly the same as earlier. So one more assumption is added, that the x variables must be uncorrelated. So when I'm talking about non-correlated x variables, I'm basically looking at the as a thumb rule, the correlation lying below 0.80. Right, so that's a threshold value, and there's no hard and fast text which says that it should be less than 0.80, but as a thumb rule, many economists tend to use this as the threshold value. The sample regression function is again concordant with the population regression function, except for the fact that your beta i's are now being replaced by their estimates, corresponding estimates b1, b2, so on till bk. So these are the estimates of the regression coefficients. The fitted regression line is given by this, and the actual observations in terms of the fitted observations are written in this form. Now, how do we estimate these BIs? Again, the same method of least squares we are using. The residual sum of squares is calculated like this. We minimize the residual sum of squares with the intercept and with respect to slope coefficients equated to 0. So that's your estimator for intercept. BI is a complicated formula, so you can refer to any text pertaining if you wish to know this formula. EI again is an estimator of UI. Sigma cap square was earlier residual sum of squares upon n minus 2 because there were only two parameters, beta naught and beta 1. Now since there are k parameters, so it is n minus k. The interpretation is now slightly different from the slope perspective. So b1 intercept is the value of y when all the xi values are 0. Again, you should be cautious in making all the xi values veer towards 0, because maybe the data set doesn't contain, or the data set doesn't support the argument that all of xi's can be 0. Like if I am talking about any last time I spoke about age, and age could not be 0, so we are forcing the regression line to move towards the 0 axis, and therefore misleading results or misleading conclusions are liable to be drawn for such forcible pulling of the regression line towards that 0 value. Now when we talk about the slope coefficients, the partial differentiation here is making more sense. Earlier the partial differentiation was same as the complete differentiation because there was no other variable. So here we talk about the partial differential, which means that rate of change in y with respect to unique change in xi when all the other variables are held constant. So that's what your partial derivative means. So if I am talking about b2, then the rate of change in y with respect to change in x2 when all the other variables are held constant. So that's the only difference between the interpretation of the slope coefficients now and before. Earlier the partial and complete differentials were one and the same, but now we are essentially speaking about the partial differential. That means we are talking about the marginal contribution. That means we're keeping all the other variables constant. The goodness of fit statistic again remains the same as it was earlier, but then the interpretation differs. It now measures the joint contribution of all these variables in explaining the variation in y. Earlier it was talking about only one variable's contribution, now it is the joint contribution. Note that you cannot assess individual contribution of x2, x3, so on y. it is always the joint contribution. You cannot say x2 contributes how much, x3 contributes how much, xk contributes how much. You cannot say that. It's always the joint contribution. So r square in the vicinity of 1 is a good model, r square in the vicinity of 0 is a bad model. And in order to check whether the regression is valid, we have this hypothesis testing, the ANOVA test as earlier, followed by the t-test for the intercept and for the slope parameters. We can also conduct a test for your sigma square, just like we did earlier. Similarly, we can have the confidence intervals, the confidence interval for the slope as well as intercept coefficients, as well as the confidence interval for sigma square. So it all depends on whether we would like 1 point to estimate your parameter, or we would like more than 1 point to estimate your parameters. Now, in order to illustrate the multiple regression model, we are again talking of a hypothetical data set. Note that this is not a real data set, so the results that we are getting out of this data set may not be may not be taken for real. This is just a hypothetical data set. The data has been simulated accordingly. So we have the CT severity score, which was affected by age. Now, going by the opinion of doctors, we believe that it is of course affected by BMI. It is also affected by maybe blood sugar levels or maybe hemoglobin levels, by the blood pressure levels, etc. So we created this kind of a hypothetical data set. So we now have three variables which was explaining the CT score. That's the result of the analysis run using Microsoft Excel. The first thing that we note is the R square value, which was 0.964. If you remember earlier, the R square value was 0.655. That means earlier only 65.5% variation in Y was being explained by age. Now 96.4% variation in the CT severity score is jointly being explained by age, BMI and hemoglobin. And if we wish to see whether this R square is good enough, we look at the ANOVA table. The p-value is significant. Therefore, we are rejecting the null hypothesis that R square is equal to 0 and hence conclude that regression is valid. In fact, if you see, 96.4% is very high value of R square. It's almost equal to 1. So this, considering the fact that this is almost equal to 1, the regression model appears to be really good. And of course, this is your explained variation, this is your unexplained variation. The estimate of sigma square is 2.28, which is nothing but mean squares due to error. Now looking at the next table, it's the coefficients which interest us. So 24.645, a negative value of the intercept. We don't read too much into the intercept. Now what interests us is the slope coefficients. So a unit increase in the age is likely to cause your CT severity score to increase by 0.019 units, keeping all the other two factors constant. So the marginal contribution of BMI to the CT severity score is 1.559. That means rate of change in CT severity score with respect to unit change in BMI, keeping all the other factor constant, is this. Similarly, hemoglobin. So we see that age and BMI has an increasing impact on the CT severity score, whereas hemoglobin has a decreasing impact on the CT severity score. If we wish to have a point interval estimate, so this is the interval estimator for the intercept and the slope coefficients. Next, we look at the p-value. We wish to know whether these coefficients are significantly different from 0 or not. So the intercept is -24 and the p-value is significant, so the model should be having an intercept. The age, which earlier was coming out to be a significant predictor of the CT severity score, is no more a significant predictor because the p-value makes its contribution as insignificant. The BMI has a significant contribution. So if you have a higher value of BMI, if you are moving from normal to obese and fat, then you are likely to have a more severe CT score. The hemoglobin, though it has a negative impact, the impact is almost negligible. Right? As an example as to how we could use this results of such a regression equation, we, we could use these coefficients and the results to make predictions. So the fitted regression equation is given by this. Now, suppose I wish to predict that what my CT score would be given age, BMI, and hemoglobin. Suppose I am infected person and I wish to see on the basis of these results what my predictions would be. So I am, let's say, 42 years old. My BMI is 24.8. My hemoglobin are 12.4. So the CT severity score, I just substitute age, BMI, and hemoglobin as these respective quantities, and the CT severity score comes out to be 11. So that's how you can use the regression.